for the prime ministers or for the presidents to actually look good because they're representing their countries. And he was completely wrong about that, because I have yet to find any country that gives their leader, whether it be a president or a prime minister, any money at all to buy clothes. And certainly it doesn't happen in the United States.
After so much promising and talk of change, the truth is finally revealed. A leader who presented himself as a defender of justice and equality turns out to be just another one who enjoys luxuries beyond the reach of the average citizen. Budget cuts? Yes, but only for others. Tax hikes? Of course, but not for those who revel in thousand-pound suits, stays in penthouses, and VIP tickets to exclusive concerts. While millions of families struggle to make ends meet, bearing the weight of a declining economy, this leader, who was supposed to represent the working class, finds himself ensnared in the allure of gifts from his benefactors. Justice? It seems it's not for everyone. The contrast is clear. While the people are asked to tighten their belts, the leaders indulge in benefits and comforts that only a privileged few can access. A designer suit here, a pair of luxury sunglasses there, and suddenly, the words of change feel empty. This scandal is more than a simple lapse in judgment. It is a glaring example of the disconnect between those in power and those suffering the consequences of their decisions. The question is, how long will we tolerate this hypocrisy? How much longer can they ignore the reality of those who elected them? Anger is growing and patience is wearing thin. Credibility is on the line and time is running out, because a leader who preaches austerity while indulging in luxury is one who will soon discover that empty promises come with a price. Could this be the beginning of the end?
Haven't, as a party, given us something more substantial to talk about. And that the first few weeks of Labour's government has all been about how bad everything is and not about what you're going to do about it.
The scandal continues to grow, and its consequences are beginning to be felt across the country. The press and public opinion remain vocal. The criticism is fierce. Everywhere you turn, the same murmur is heard. How is it possible that someone who presents himself as the defender of the people indulges in such luxuries? Protests are gaining momentum. The discontent is palpable in the streets, where citizens of all ages question whether this leader truly understands what it means to tighten one's belt if he has ever had to make difficult decisions to survive in an increasingly harsh economic climate. How can someone surrounded by luxury claim to understand the struggles of those who fight every day to put food on the table? People are tired of empty promises and elaborate excuses. Attempts to justify these gifts fall on deaf ears. Explanations like, "they were necessary for my work," or "not accepting them would have been disrespectful," only fuel the outrage, because at its core, it's not about a suit, a penthouse stay, or VIP tickets, it's about trust. And once broken, trust is nearly impossible to rebuild. Members of his own party are starting to distance themselves, worried about the impact this scandal will have on their political future. Public opinion demands answers, and investigations are already beginning to uncover more names involved in the affair. What once seemed like a simple case of personal excess is now revealing itself as part of a broader culture of privilege and disconnection in power. The British people, weary of years of unfulfilled promises, seek leaders who genuinely represent their interests, who understand their struggles. And this scandal only reinforces the perception that the system is broken, that those in power are more interested in enjoying privileges than in working for the well-being of their citizens. As the revelations continue, many wonder if this leader will manage to emerge unscathed, because in politics it all comes down to one thing: perception. And right now the perception is clear. The leader who promised to fight for the people has fallen into the same game he once criticized, and for many that is unforgivable. Time will tell if promises of change are enough to quell the anger of a nation beginning to awaken, but one thing is certain: the people will not easily forget who benefited while they suffered.
He has accepted more freebies by far than anyone else, 2.5 times more than the second highest claimer of freebies. Now, what this table here is the top 10 MPs who've accepted the most in gifts, excluding legal fees.
The consequences of the scandal not only affect the leader's reputation, but are also beginning to spread throughout the party. Allies who once defended him fervently now find themselves at a crossroads, torn between supporting him or distancing themselves to save their own political careers. Media pressure is mounting, with journalists investigating every detail, uncovering more evidence of connections between politicians and wealthy donors who seem to operate in the shadows, exchanging favors and luxuries behind the backs of a public struggling to make ends meet. Protests, once isolated, are multiplying across the country's major cities. People of all ages, social classes, and backgrounds are joining together in a common cry: justice and transparency. Banners accuse the party of betraying its ideals, of becoming a replica of the very enemies they once criticized. The discontent is palpable, echoing on social media, in cafes, and in homes. How can people trust a system that seems to benefit only a select few? The party's attempts at damage control fall short. Statements of regret, promises of internal reforms, and commitments to transparency appear as desperate efforts that fail to calm a citizenry that at last is beginning to wake up. With each passing day, the pressure builds, and with it, the likelihood of new scandals emerging. The credibility not just of the leader, but of the entire political movement is at stake. Donors, once secure in the shadows, are now being identified for their generous contributions, which are now understood to be far from selfless. The media demands clear answers. What were those gifts exchanged for? What favors were offered? The shadow of corruption begins to taint every past decision of the party, and calls for a formal investigation grow louder. The situation is turning into a political spectacle where everyone is looking for a scapegoat, but few are willing to take responsibility. Every move the leader makes is scrutinized, and the narrative of a man disconnected from the realities of those who voted for him solidifies. The crisis threatens not only his public image, but also the future of the party he represents. In this climate of distrust, many citizens ask, is there any politician truly committed to the welfare of the people? Hope is fading, and with it, the belief in real change within the system. Disillusionment settles in the hearts of voters, who begin to wonder if there was ever any intention to improve their lives, or if it was all from the start an illusion. A leader's credibility can vanish in the blink of an eye, but the scars left by political betrayal can last for generations. The party's future hangs by a thread, and the people, tired of lies and falsehoods, watch closely, every move, every word, every promise. Because this time, patience has run out and the cry for justice is louder than ever.
Came across to help Keir Starmer to be his political eyes and ears ahead of the general election. She's used to be the head of ethics for the government, so she of all people should have a radar for what's right and for what's wrong. That's what's mystifying people.
Tensions continue to escalate. The leader, cornered by criticism and growing protests, tries to manage the damage, but every step he takes seems to worsen the situation. Investigations are advancing, and the media reveals more compromising details. Opaque transactions and secret meetings with donors seeking to influence key political decisions are uncovered. Citizens, tired of the lack of transparency, demand clarity and accountability. The narrative intensifies. Leaders once seen as figures of change are now perceived as elitist, disconnected, and focused on their own gains. Discontent is growing, and many within the party begin to feel that their own positions could be at risk if drastic measures are not taken to restore the public image. Internal debate becomes fierce. Some call for the leader's resignation, while others seek a strategy to save the party from imminent collapse. Meanwhile, the distrust between the public and their representatives continues to deepen. Each new report, each new revelation feeds the narrative of corruption and abuse of power. Voters begin to look beyond the party, searching for options that truly represent their interests. And some emerging figures take advantage of the chaos to position themselves as genuine alternatives, promising real change. The media conversations grow harsher, and polls show a drastic decline in the popularity of the leader and the party overall. International allies who once viewed the leader as a reliable partner begin to distance themselves, and diplomatic meetings become uncomfortable spaces where the shadow of the scandal lingers. The public watches with skepticism at each attempt at justification. Promises to investigate and take corrective action are seen as desperate tactics of an elite trying to protect itself. Social media buzzes with heated debates, where polarization grows and citizens question whether there was ever an intention to fight for them or if it was all a calculated deception. The crisis becomes a turning point. The future of the leader and his party hangs in the balance, and the entire country watches with frustration and indignation as their elected representatives are caught in the web of scandal. The upcoming elections appear uncertain, and the nation's political landscape is poised for a reconfiguration that, for many, comes too late.